to the Marketing Pulpit Show, and I am Robert Gatewood, your host. We are here every Friday at 10:30 a.m. bringing you the good marketing gospel. We're not saving souls, we're saving businesses, saving jobs, saving our community. Now, if I happen to save a soul along the way, don't hold that against me. We'll just call that icing on the cake. Now, the mission at Marketing Pulpit Show is to build strong businesses in our community so that we can put our people to work. And we do that with business development, job creation, and service. So if you ever find yourself in a business crossroads and not sure which way to turn, just turn on the Marketing Pulpit Show because we're on a mission. The show is broadcast live from the illustrious Radio 1 studio.
Good morning and welcome to the Marketing Pulpit Show, or MPI. I am Robert Gatewood, your host, and we are here every Friday at 10:30 a.m. bringing you the good marketing gospel. We're not a gospel show. And sometimes, I guess because my dad was a preacher, feels like it, but I'm here on a different mission. I'm here on a mission to save businesses, not souls. I'm here to save our community. I'm here to make a difference. At some point, we have to be able to self-sustain our community. And one of the best ways to do that, in my opinion, is to build successful businesses. So we can put our people to work, take our kids off the street, have some leverage. And that's my mission. I've been at it now on this platform for 15 years, but it's been my life calling. Everything I touch has that mission in mind, whether I'm teaching at the college as a professor, where I teach marketing, public relations, social media, networking. Written a couple of books on the topics. One called Played in Full, one Smarter Than the Boss. I've even worked in the government space for the Small Business Administration to help businesses become more technically astute. Some work to do. We have work to do. I'm here for it. It's not easy. And thank you for the support you've shown over the years. And I don't take it lightly, but we have a lot of work to do. Welcome to the show. We're going to talk about some important things today. There's a lot going on. Our topic today is going to be boycott. Boycott. Should be boycott. Who are the winners? Who are the losers? And does it affect everyone equally? Does everybody sacrifice the same? Are we asking others to do that we are not willing to do ourselves? We're going to talk about that later in the show. We're going to get right to it today because we have so much to do. We have a lot going on in the news. We have controversy and just a lot to talk about. Every week I say I'm not going to do a live show, and but I'm pulled because there's so much to discuss. And I want my voice to be among the voices on some of these important issues. I want to start out by saying this is the anniversary of the passing of the great Joe Madison. He succumbed last year, January 31st, 2024. He battled prostate cancer for many years. Matter of fact, I remember when he announced it. And that's close to me, not just because Joe was one of my longest and more enduring clients. It's because I also battle with prostate cancer. And when Joe announced it, I was shocked, I was thrown back. But I was proud that he announced it to the world. Because when Joe announced it, it caused people like myself to take a harder look at ourselves. And he talked about early detection, and his story was very similar to mine. He went in to get a checkup for something else. And while they're doing the blood test, and that's all a PSA test is, you take this PSA test. And if the score is elevated, then it's a sign that you may be prone to have prostate cancer. Then they do another few tests, and then they finally do a biopsy, which is not the most pleasant experience. But then they find the cancer, then you get your options. Radiation, surgery, hormones, combination of the above. But it's important to detect it early. So that's why I decided to come out and talk to fellow men that go ahead and get your PSA test. Because when Joe announced his prostate cancer, it kind of set off a bell in my head, even though I have family members that suffer from it as well. But something about Joe, it just seemed a little different. So I did finally get the test, and the results were not what I had hoped for. But I think about Joe 1 year after his passing. After he announced his prostate cancer, Joe was around for another 14 years. So I'll just say this, if I'm so lucky to be here another 14 years, I'm okay. I'll be okay. None of us are put on this earth to live forever. That shouldn't even be a goal. But what our goal should be is to have our impact and the difference that we make in the world to last forever. And that's how I'm going to approach it. So rest on, Brother Joe Madison. You've done your work. You fought the good fight, and we celebrate you on this day. Also, tomorrow, we're going to be celebrating the life of Dr. Renee Starlin Allen, beautiful young lady, amazing radio host, MC, business owner, consultant, former veteran. Anyway, she's being laid to rest tomorrow over at the sanctuary in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. I plan to go there to pay my respects. And once again, we send our prayers out to the family and friends of Dr. Allen. We're going to jump right into the news. Much of the talk now is about the mid-air collision over the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, the 14th Street Bridge over at the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. a couple of nights ago. I had family members that called me to check on me. I didn't even know what was going on. I was on one of these stations watching a movie or something. My brother called me and said, "Are you guys okay up there? I know you used to live over in that Crystal City, Pentagon City area, and you have family members up there." So they were checking on us. So we've experienced the deadliest air disaster in almost a century, 24 years. 67 people perished, 64 on the airline, and another 3 on a Black Hawk helicopter that collided with the passenger jet. They're still pulling bodies out of the river. I think they pulled like 40 or 50 so far out of the 67 people who perished. The plane was landing at Reagan National Airport, just right across the river. And at times like these, we need a compassionate leader to suspend politics, to put politics aside, to console the families, friends, co-workers, associates of those who perished, and instill confidence in our institutions, like the FAA, for instance. But unfortunately, once again, our president let us down. Instead of supporting and rallying us and pulling us together, he chose this as an opportunity to blame the former President Biden and his diversity initiatives. In other words, the President of the United States decided to take this opportunity to blame diversity, equity, and inclusion for the accident. I'm just at a loss. Every time I think I've seen the worst, there's always a wrong lower. But I want to take this time to express my condolences to the families of those who were lost, their friends, their co-workers. Somebody went off to work that day. Somebody was going off to an event like the ice skating team. They were coming home. I've been on that chart many times. Coming in over the Potomac River, you're looking down, you can see the the Pentagon, the Washington Monument, and you're getting yourself ready. You're looking for your bags, you're putting your tray up, you're strapped in, you're starting to think about who's there to pick you up. Are you going to catch the Uber? Or your friends, family out there waiting for you? When you get to that point, you think the trip is over. It's done. It's a wrap. You made it. But unfortunately for 67 souls, that was not the case. We need a leader at times like this. Howard University, the School of Law, and the broader university, they learned of the passing of Professor Kia Duggins, who was among those lost in this mid-air collision. She was set to begin her young life as a professor of law at Howard University. She's a civil rights attorney, dedicated her career to fighting against unconstitutional policies and unjust bail money practices in Tennessee, Texas, and Washington, D.C. Her precious soul was also lost on me, where her precious self, her body, her soul lives on a couple of days ago. Once again, that's why it saddens me that we have this going on and we have the president politicizing this, blaming DEI. I did a show about DEI last week. Matter of fact, it's be a good listen. We'll go back and check it out. Let's see what else is going on. We're going to dedicate this show to those who lost their lives in this tragic accident, and particularly to Miss Professor Kia Duggins, a young, bright attorney coming home. These are different times. All I would say to everybody is to pace yourself. Don't get too bent out of shape. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Pace yourself. Breathe. Drink water. Exercise. You can't sit there and listen to the news all day long. You go crazy. But you can't put your head in the sand either. Because I basically had my head in the sand when this plane crashed. I didn't know. Somebody from out of North Carolina had to call and tell me because I was tuning out the news. I just couldn't take listening to the news all day. So that's a little juggling act we have to do. Got to stay informed, in the know, but at the same time, we got to protect our mental health. Another interesting story, activists are calling for the boycott of Target following their rollback of their DEI programs. So they're calling for a nationwide boycott because the company decided to get rid of its DEI initiatives. They announced this on January 24th, that it would end its DEI goals that were previously set to increase Black employees' representation and advancement and to improve Black shopper experience, representation, and advancement. And they also are pulling back on efforts to hire, promote women, minorities, LGBTQ plus people, and veterans. That's pretty major. And so as a result of that, many activists are calling to boycott Target. Now, it might seem pretty, if you're an activist, if you fall into one of those groups of the DEI, women, Black people, veterans, LGBTQ plus, disabled, other minorities. You say, hey, let's boycott. How dare they? If life were so simple. Well, on the other side of the boycott spectrum, we have Black business owners like Tabitha Brown, who sells kitchenware and has her products highlighted in Target stores. And she said on her Instagram post that she understands the anger, as most of us do. However, she asked for those to consider the boycott, to reconsider. Now, Target said we remain focused on driving our business by creating a sense of belonging for our team, guests, and communities throughout a commitment to inclusion. That's what Target said. Now, Ms. Tabitha Brown, on the other hand, said if we all decide to boycott and be like, no, we're not spending our money at these organizations like Target, so many of us, including Ms. Brown, will be affected and our sales would drop and our businesses would be hurt. That's what Ms. Brown said. And she's right. There would be hurt because stores like Target, once people stop buying your product, they will pull you off the shelves. And so if people just randomly wholesale stop shopping at Target, Black people, other people who are affected by the DEI initiatives, then of course Ms. Brown and many other Black-owned companies and women-owned companies and so forth, they would be affected and negatively impacted. That's why today we're going to spend some time talking about boycott. Who are the winners and losers? Is Tabitha Brown right? Is that oversimplifying something that's much more complex and complicated? Does everybody sacrifice the same when we start talking about boycotts? So let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. I'm going to give you my take. This is the Marketing Pulpit. I'm Robert Gatewood, your host. We're here every Friday. We're going to take a quick break. I'll see you back here in a moment. Thank you. This is the Marketing Pulpit Show. I'm Robert Gatewood, your host. We're here every Friday at 10:30 a.m. bringing you the good marketing gospel. I'm on a mission to build a self-sustaining community so that we can hire our own people. Our young people shouldn't have to be out here worrying about where they can find employment. Our adults shouldn't have to sell their soul or work at jobs where they're disrespected and marginalized. And we need to build our own infrastructure, our own foundation, financial base, and through successful businesses, we can get closer to achieving that objective. But Marketing Pulpit is based on you have to understand marketing in order to do that. I'm going down to the roots. Yeah, it's easy to start a business. Just go down to the courthouse or wherever, go online, sign the papers. Okay, you're in business. You can be in business 5 minutes, but it's going to work. It's going to succeed. That's where you need marketing. And marketing is just not about advertising. It's about building relationships. It's about understanding the marketplace, knowing your target audience, all the tools that are needed to make a business successful. And that's what we bring to this show. And mindset. We spent a lot of time this year talking about mindset as well, and making sure that you understand how marketing works and business works, and that if you have the right mindset to make it happen. Let's get into our topic. For starters, let me just say this. Just get it out of the way. Yes, I believe in boycotts. I don't believe anyone should finance their own oppression. Think on that for a minute. we shouldn't be financing our own oppression. But once again, nothing about this is quite that simple. What is a boycott? Well, it's a collection of individuals who refrain from purchasing a product or service from specific companies or brands to achieve a particular social, political, or economic objective. In other words, I'm not going to give you my money because I don't believe or like what you're doing. I'm being hurt by it, or somebody that I know is being hurt by it. Therefore, I'm going to refrain from financing their harm. Well, it's been around for a while. In 1765, it goes way back, when the American colonists boycotted the British goods to protest the Stamp Act. In the 60s, we saw the Civil Rights Movement boycott and fight racial segregation. Many people remember the Montgomery bus boycott, which was a very successful boycott. It achieved its objective. So yeah, they can work. We saw in the 80s fights against apartheid, environmental movements. So yes, boycotts have been a tool for the disenfranchised and the marginalized, and people trying to attain some type of objective. In the 21st century, we've seen boycotts. They've taken on a new countenance. We see people protesting online, using social media, things like that. So boycott has a long history. If you're trying to attain social justice, environmental protection, corporate accountability, political change, boycott has your back. We see traditional boycotts. That's where people just plain stop buying. I'm going to withhold my money from I'm not going to walk into your stores. I might even have a sign out front trying to discourage others. Bullhorn. And in some cases, just refusing to participate, like Montgomery bus boycott. They weren't out in the street necessarily. They were just not going to get on that bus until they saw justice. Then we have online activism, of course. Sometimes there's collaborative approaches where you get influencers and people get together and decide they're going to have some type of collective action. So boycott has several countenances. It's not just this one way to do it. Sometimes it's just a consumer education campaign. Now, what do you plan to do? Why are you doing boycotts in the first place? Well, sometimes you just want to change corporate policies. You want them to change the way they're doing business. Sometimes you want the government to act. You look at legislative change. And sometimes this comes down to public awareness. You want to bring attention and awareness to certain inequities or injustices. Now, needless to say, not every boycott works. Most boycotts start with good intentions. Sometimes they just fizzle out. I've seen a lot of boycotts over the years. People say, let's not buy anything on Black Friday. We're going to keep our money in our pocket. Let's do this. Let's do that. And the intentions are good, but it's complicated. That's not to take away from the people who organized it or tried to organize it. They tried to do something. They tried to do something rather than just sit on their hands. So I ain't mad at anybody. Sometimes there's a backlash from your boycott. Okay, well, if you are going to, you say you're not going to buy from this company, well, the other people who agree with the company, they come back in and buy even more. So whatever you are aim you were trying to accomplish by not buying the product was offset by the backlash. That's always a possibility. This law of nature that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. But many harken back to the Montgomery bus boycott and the sacrifice that the people made. That thing went on for a year. And some people were fired from the job by their boss. Some were threatened. Your name was floated around if you participated. So there was some sacrifice required when you boycott. Now the upside, of course, there's a sense of empowerment that comes with boycotting. You're doing something. You're not just sitting around taking it. We'll show them, right? And there's also a sense of solidarity. People actually come together. Strengthening community ties. So there's some collateral benefits besides the political aim or objective that you're going after. The empowerment, excuse me 1 second. Like the economic empowerment, the strengthening of the community, and the fact that you're doing something. You're being proactive. You're letting people know. You're putting people on notice. We're not going to take it anymore. And one of the downsides, I said earlier, like I say, there is that possibility of a backlash. It almost always happens to some degree. Sometimes it's greater than others. Sometimes it's a small backlash. Sometimes the backlash is more powerful than the original boycott. And the last thing I want to talk about is the economic consequences of those who are involved. I'm going to spend a little time talking about this because I've studied the Tabitha Brown situation. She's gotten a lot of heat. She's been canceled online in many cases. She's been called sellout. She's been called self-serving. She's been called this, that, and the other. And it's almost like you've got this division within the community over whether or not a boycott is the right thing to do. Now, I'm going to take this approach. While, yes, a boycott can be the right thing to do and it can be effective, but realize that the sacrifice for everyone is not the same. It does not impact everyone equally. So I'm not going to be beating up on somebody whose livelihood, whose hard work stands to go down the drain over something that, as we have just discussed, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes some of the people who are crying boycott the loudest didn't even take the time to go vote. Are they willing to sacrifice themselves? Are you willing to give the same amount of sacrifice that you're asking of others? That's all I'm saying. Somebody come to me and say, hey, Gatewood, let's boycott Harley Davidson. I say, hey, sure, count me in. Heck, I don't own a motorcycle. I have nothing to lose in that boycott. You have people, some people saying let's boycott Walmart too. Which, like I say, hey, count me in. I don't even shop at Walmart. Sometimes I swing by there, but that's not a sacrifice to me to ask me to boycott Walmart. It's not going to affect my life one. But what about when you ask the vendors who have their products in the Walmart? What about the people who work in Walmart? And that's the only job they could get. What about the senior citizens who have to fulfill their prescriptions at Walmart? Are they going to hire Uber to drive across town for their blood pressure pills? That's asking a lot. Would you do the same? What would you do in Tabitha Brown's situation? Now, I spent the last 15 years on this platform telling people, build strong businesses in our community so we can put our people to work. Well, people like Tabitha Brown went out and did just that. They built a strong business. They, in our broader community, and they put people to work. But that's not even easy. Because I heard a different company on Instagram, they were in a similar situation as Tabitha. They said, look, we have our products in hundreds of stores, yet we support the boycott. Don't buy from these stores because we're going to aim our at the stores themselves, at the management. We're going to ask them to make the change and not ask our consumers to sacrifice. Reminds me of that movie, and I watch a lot of war stories, watching war movies. I guess my political background kind of pulls me in that direction. I remember this movie, Platoon. And getting towards the end of the movie, the North Vietnamese overran this position. And the general or whoever was put on his hat and called in for air support. He said, drop the bombs right on top of me. In other words, I'm willing to sacrifice my life for the greater good, for the greater objective of defeating this enemy. If that's what you want to do it. But can you ask others to do the same thing? Because even in the case of Tabitha and the other company that I mentioned, if one person just got in, they just got in Walmart, they just got in Target, they've been working in the trenches for ages, they just got their first delivery last week. Another company could have been in there for 10 years and built up a nice little nest egg, enough to sustain them through the upcoming storm. So the sacrifice is not the same. I remember when the football players were taking the knee. I was in the Radio 1 studio, and I was trying to make this point back then. Yeah, it's easy for people out there watching the game. Hey, I'm mad at such and such a player. He didn't take the knee with the other players. Well, when you go to your job, are you willing to take the knee? Are you willing to walk up to your boss and say, I'm not going to put my hand over my chest for the Star Spangled Banner? Maybe you will, maybe you won't. I'm just saying this, people. Let's not let others divide us. Everybody can do something. You may be a boycotter. Another person may be strong, financial, have some other type of impact, either financially, technically. Maybe they can motivate. Maybe they can do something else. But let's not beat up on each other. And let's have some empathy for whatever. I have no doubt in my mind that Tabitha Brown, she's not for the DEI rollback. I don't know her. I'm just making an assumption here, okay? But I know other people like her. They've been put in a bind. So are you going to be the person like in the movie where they say, dump the bombs on top of me, blow me up, I'm going down with the chip? Or are you going to take a more nuanced approach and say, look, what else can we do? Let's have a discussion about this. I can't ask grandma not to get her pills from Walmart, even though I disagree with their policies. Are you going to be driving over every week to bring her those pills? If not, all right, folks. About a few months ago, I was listening. I was on Twitter, not Twitter, Instagram or something, and I was looking at Elon Musk. He said something very disparaging about Kamala Harris, who was running for president at the time. I owned quite a bit of Tesla stock at the time. And I think in that particular instance, I may have taken the stance of the guy, dumped the bombs on me. I sold off my stock, every last share. I took a heavy financial loss. And Elon Musk probably didn't hurt him one bit. But at some point, you have to live with yourself. So that's what I'm going to ask each of you. Whether you're Tabitha, whether you're the person who's saying boycott at all costs, you got to live with yourself. You have to live with yourself. Follow your conscience. Let your conscience be your guide. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up today. I'm Robert Gatewood. This is the Marketing Pulpit. I'm here every Friday at 10:30 a.m. Once again, our hearts goes out to the people that perished this week in the chilly waters of the Potomac River. Once again, in remembrance of the great Joe Madison, who passed away a year from today. All you brothers and men out there, get your prostate checked out. And you ladies, you gotta encourage these guys. They don't know what it is about us guys. We're so slow to do that. I tell you what, do this. Let me just lower the bar for you. Take the PSA test. It's just a blood test. They're just gonna stick a needle in your arm. You won't even feel it. You can look away like I did. I'm not telling you to go get a biopsy. I'm not telling you to go do anything other than just take a simple PSA blood test. I think sometimes people thinking about this and they start thinking about, man, it's going to hurt. It's going to be uncomfortable. Well, the PSA test is not either. You can get it in like 5 minutes. Do that. I mean, it's going to make it easy. Lower the threshold. And then you have the range of options. If it's good, get on with your life, enjoy. You're not looking over your shoulders, peeping around corners. If your PSA is high, then you go to the next step. But whatever you do, don't sit on this. Because once that cancer starts to metastasize and move to other organs, and your options are limited. You may not have all the options that you have right now if you detect it early. So you're talking to somebody who's in the middle of this. So I have to decide now whether I'm going to do radiation or have surgery. Matter of fact, I have a meeting on Monday. Look, I'm not hurting. I'm okay. And you will be the same. You can get on with your life. You can live a very normal life. Anyway, I hope this helps some people who are sitting on the fence. And thank you, Joe Madison, for highlighting prostate cancer. And all the other things you've done. I wish you were around today to help us with some of these challenges we're having with DEI rollbacks and boycotts. So thank you again to everybody. Thank you for listening. And I'm going to end this show today. As always, we'll tune in next week. We're going to be talking about Black History Month. If it's going to be a Black History Month after this month. We're going to talk about it right here on the show. And as I always say, every show, if you want to be successful, you have to do these 3 things. Do the right thing, do it at the right time, and you must do it right. Enough talk. Let's get to work.